Hi, it's Jon Mitchell, Mayor of New Bedford, and this is another installment of the Mayor's Weekly Update. So I have two things to talk about, and they are utterly unrelated, but very important to the city. So the first has to do with our primary industry here in New Bedford and a new industry that we wish to cultivate, and that's fishing and offshore wind. So this week I spoke at a hearing that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management held at the Wayport Event Center on the waterfront. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, otherwise known as BOEM, is part of the Department of the Interior, and they regulate the use of the U.S. outer continental shelf, the area of ocean that's out in federal waters as far as the continental shelf goes. And so they're in charge of leasing areas for oil and natural gas drilling, as they do in the Gulf of Mexico and California and other places, and the siting of offshore wind farms. The issue last night, or this week, was had everything to do with the leasing of certain areas off of the coast of New York and New Jersey that are known as the New York proposed lease areas. And the big concern there is that they drew these big shapes right in the middle of areas that historically have been fished, and a lot of the fishing there is scallops, and a lot of that, the lion's share of those scallops, come back here to New Bedford. It's pretty alarming. There's actually over the last few years, over the last 5 years, about $320 million worth of fish that were caught in those areas, and the lion's share of that goes back to New Bedford. So it's a significant amount of fish. So what I emphasized at the hearing, and what I'll continue to emphasize with public officials at the federal and state levels and others, is that there's a right way and a wrong way to do offshore wind. We want to be the leader in offshore wind, as we already are in fishing, but we know that it takes some planning. It'll take some planning and some careful thought. And we can't have wind farms go in places where we know there are scallops that are being successfully harvested. This is especially troubling given that the area that they drew on the map is far larger than what the state of New York actually needs to procure the amount of electricity they've set for themselves in the next 10 years. So stay tuned to that. It's an important thing to watch. I mean, a lot of times folks often hear about things going on with the fishing industry, controversies about enforcement or other regulations. Of the last few years, I mean, this is one of the ones that I would say, fair to say, troubles me more than most. So, but we're going to continue to fight it so that our scallopers continue to do well. As they have over the last few years, because they've meant a lot to our economy, and they deserve to be heard. The other big topic I just want to talk about today has to do with a new initiative to promote stores and especially restaurants on Acushnet Avenue. It's called Love the Ave. There's a website called lovetheave.com where you can find out about the initiative, but it's basically a push to promote all the great things that are on the Ave. The Ave has been for decades a true melting pot of cultures. Whether years ago it was more Greek and French and Polish, and nowadays, and then of course transitioned to Portuguese for a long time, and it continues to be. But it's also now Guatemalan and Mexican and Puerto Rican and Honduran, and we celebrate that mix. And we kicked off the event just this past week to launch the Love the Ave initiative at Chocolate con Pimento, which is a great bakery at the corner of Acushnet Avenue and Hawley Street. And as we started to launch the event, I looked at the list of all the restaurants on the avenue, and I thought, when you see it all on paper, there really are a lot of restaurants. There are actually more restaurants on Acushnet Avenue than there are in the downtown. And one of the nice things about it is that there is a lot to choose from. There's a lot of variety, and there really aren't any national chains. It's all locally owned businesses that when you go to them, you're supporting local folks. So I just want everybody to know that the Acushnet Avenue, to my mind, is New Bedford's Main Street, and we have to continue to support it and continue to support its growth and evolution. So, and have fun along the way. There's just great stuff to be had up and down the avenue. So, anyway, that's you'll probably see me out at one of those restaurants. This is Restaurant Week, by the way, on the avenue. So take advantage of that. With all that, I've built up an appetite. So I will see you next week.